Hello, everybody. I'm Ross Marley, and it's time for the Great Awakening game. Today's topic, King Kong. All right, let's play the game. If you're familiar with King Kong, the movie, it was originally done in 1933. And what we saw here was a monster that was so popular, they redid the movie in 1976. So let's take a look at some of the differences. In the original, it was a pre-code film. So pre-code cinema, roughly 1929 to 1934, was the opposite of limited. It was an era of unchecked, often shocking narrative freedom, which eventually the Hays Code was designed specifically to suppress. Now, the remake done a little bit lighter than Michelob Light, a little programming involved. So just a reminder, the Rockefeller Foundation in the 1940s became heavily involved in media, education, and film.
We're millionaires, boys. I'll share it with all of you. Why, in a few months, we'll be up in lights on Broadway. Come, the eighth wonder of the world.
Because this was a popular movie, it was redone in 76. And let's take a look at some of the differences here.
King Kong, a fantastic adventure. King Kong. With Jeff Bridges, Charles Grodin, and introducing Jessica Lange as the beauty.
Who killed the beast? Okay, so the original plot with filmmaker Carl Denham's new project needs an actress. In the streets of New York City, he finds struggling beauty Ann Darrow and promises her the thrill of a lifetime. Let's make a movie on Skull Island. Right? Now, in that 1976 MK plot version, Petrox Oil executive Fred Wilson forms an expedition based on infrared imagery, which reveals a previously undiscovered Indian Ocean island. While there's a large oil deposit, it is of such low quality that it's unusable. So he has a brainstorm. Freddy's brainstorm is King Kong is going to be the ultimate ultra gimmick for his Petrox oil. It's going to be the Energizer Bunny of his company. While there's a large oil deposit, it is of such low quality that it's unusable. All right, so there's this underlying premise to promote the idea that crude oil, also known as fossil fuel, needs millions of years before it can be worthy of drilling and thus scarce. That's a bunch of gorilla crap. It really is. Water covers 71% of the surface of the earth. It's number one most common liquid. Number two, petroleum. It's the next most prevalent natural liquid stored in the crust. So the term fossil fuel is considered a misnomer because these energy sources, coal, oil, gas, originate from ancient decomposed biomass, right? Plankton, plants. They're not from mineralized fossils like dinosaur bones. All right, so let's take a look here. Now here's a Jed Clampett scene. Look at that. It just comes right out. It just float right from the surface. It is everywhere. There's a lot of it. And I don't think this is AI. This looks like a real video of crude oil just coming out of the surface. It's not what we learned in school, is it? So perhaps an oddly confident lady can fill us in here.
To do it through the schools. You have to dumb down and brainwash, change the attitudes and values. You have to completely, social engineering has to go constantly. So I do think that the watershed year, although you can go back to the early part of the century when the Rockefeller Foundation and the Carnegie Corporation were deeply involved in education. And that it was decided then that Carnegie would deal with the international part and Rockefeller domestic. They commissioned the American Historical Association to put together a study of the social studies. It called for changing the United States through the schools from a free individualistic economy to a socialist, collectivized, planned economy in the New World Order.
It says that in the book.
Yes.
And that book was written when?
In 1934.
Now, George Santayana, a Spanish philosopher, let's quote him here. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. These are words from George that we should all remember. All right. So a little breakaway here. I want to show a lot of respect for the inhabitants in the movie. They were fictional, but if they were anything like some of the great Native American tribes here on the United States land, for example, this is the Oto tribe, OTO. Those explorers, if they would have had, maybe a more rugged tribe, they would have taken care of King Kong. Okay, so willing suspension of disbelief in the movie. We got our team of OG Oto tribe here, and I don't think any King Kong would have been a match for these guys. I think they would have taken him out with ease. Anyway, my respect to those who've inspired rugged individualism here in the United States. All right, so just like King Kong, the Great Awakening game is just for entertainment. Again, for my friends at YouTube, this is just entertainment because fusion is an illusion, right? I mean, those cold fusion reactors didn't just push that jet through a wormhole at all. That did not happen. So let's take a look at some other stuff here. Oh, we're going to play a game. Well, not this game, although I think I had this in 1976. This was the King Kong game, and it looks like it was made by the Ideal Company. Perhaps Red's got a copy of this one. I'm sure it would be in mint condition. All right, everybody, it's time to play. So King Kong, 1933 and 1976. We're going to go through this quickly, right? And here we go. All right, so let's look at the clues. We've got 7 clues across and 7 clues down. We'll solve the puzzle when we answer all the clues. All right, we're going to start with which number? Pick a number, any number, 3 down. Okay, Faye's lure. So what lured Fay Ray in that first movie to hop on the ship? It was the thrill of a lifetime. All right, so those of you playing along, speed it up because we're going to move fast from here forward. Platte River Tribe, right? We just showed you a picture of those guys. The OG, the OTO, sometimes spelled OTOE. That is the Platte River Tribe. One across. Although in King Kong Beauty killed the beast, we really never found out who killed Ron and Nicole now, did we? But in Judge Ito's courtroom back in the 20th century, what did we learn? Well, we learned that one of the members of the house went and ran for some fast food and heard a thump on the wall. And next thing we knew, we had a murder scene. And his name was Cato Kalin. Anyway, let's move on to number 2 down, fictional crude factor. So in the movie, the reason the crude oil was a bust, it wasn't old enough. It is age is the answer. All right, 1 down, Son of Kong's Pop. So there was a sequel to the 33 movie, and that was Son of Kong. And this is a circular question. It's pretty easy. Answer's King Kong. Number 8 across. Kong's New York billing number, right? Well, he was going to be number 8 wonder of the world. So it looks like number 9 was just given to us, right? This is Nero, 9, burning Rome fiddler. Nero, we figured out 1, 2, 3, 4, and down. And look at that. 9 across is already solved. Sometimes there's joy in doing crossword puzzles. 10 across, which says see 11 across. And 11 across, Kong's home. Well, we know it was the Indian Ocean, but that doesn't fit in the squares. It's Skull Island. All right, so 15 across. It's a 1976 movie, Oil Status. Well, this is the reason I'm doing this puzzle, right? That oil was unusable, right? Willing suspension of disbelief in that fictional movie. All right, so 5 down, the old plankton, right? It wasn't dinosaur bones. It was fossil fuels. Not plankton. And plankton makes fossil fuels. Dinosaur bones don't. If you learn one thing today, let that be it. Who made the King Kong game? That was the Ideal Toy Company. All right, 7 down. Here we go. Fred's blank storm, right? That was the gimmick. What did Fred Wilson have in the movie? He had a brainstorm, and that's number 7. Finally, we're getting close to wrapping up this puzzle. Again, I want to thank you all for playing along. George's was shared, 12 down. So George Santayana, I shared a famous quote. That was 17 across and 16 down. We're going to solve both of these at the same time. They're basically the same thing, right? Kong was a great one, and beauty killed blank blank, right? So Kong was a great ape, and beauty killed the beast. And I know some of our viewers figured this stuff out before I even said it. So back to George Santayana. His focus in that quote, right? Those who cannot recall or remember the past. That's it. If you don't remember the past, you are condemned to repeat it. That's why we're playing the game today. Because what we saw with that pre-code film, 14 down, we saw a plot twist. That's right. The plot switched around. So as we look, we see we have solved today's puzzle. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. We talked about the 1933 movie versus the 1976 movie King Kong and the differences and perhaps the programming. I appreciate everybody's viewership, and I look forward to seeing you on our next one. My name is Ross Marley, and you just got the love.